Welcome back to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz. This portion of the show is brought to you every week by Westport, Washington. Whether you like to fish, whether you like to surf, or just have fun at the beach, Westport is the place to go. And coming up next weekend, by the way, is the Wind Rider Kite Festival, July 13th to 15th. Looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. And don't forget to go fishing while you're in Westport, too. The salmon are biting. Find out more at experiencewestport.org. Up next, we're talking to Randy King. He's the chef in the wild. He loves to cook. He loves to hunt. He's a reporter for Boise Weekly. He's written articles that have appeared in Outdoor Life magazine. He's hosted Idaho Iron Chef on TV and represented the Gem State in the Great Seafood Cook-Off as well. And now he's on our show. Randy, welcome aboard.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. I'm honored to be here, sir. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Well, the longer you know me, the less honored you'll be. I'll tell you what, Randy, but I'm glad to have you because I really enjoyed your website because you've got some really offbeat stuff that you talk about cooking. And one thing that I know is a real challenge for a lot of people is bear. Most bear hunters I know, it immediately becomes sausage. But you actually have a recipe on your website about barbecue bear ribs. That sounds delicious. Tell me about this.
Yeah, bears have a bad reputation that I don't really know that's redeemed. Most people kind of find the concept of eating something that eats meat a little weird. So, I mean, that's why most don't eat cougars, the coyotes, the wolves. And so bears typically fall into that category. And a lot of times what people have this reputation of is that bears, especially if they're getting off bait barrels and they're anywhere near people, they just stink because they've been eating, rotten food, or the bears that are rolling in salmon, stuff like that. So they've just got this bad reputation. You peel that back, though, and you get to kind of the interior cuts and things like that, like the ribs. They're just dynamite. So the bear that I got this year was a spring bear, and the cool part about it is it was really lean. So bears also tend to, when they're packing on that fat in the fall,
right,
that's when people can find it a little bit hard to handle too. So it was a spring bear. I did the ribs. All you really do is you just brine them in, kind of a salt sugar mixture. Just Google a good turkey brine, really is all it was. And then just kind of smoke them in a barbecue. What I'll do is I'll take just briquettes that I use, or not briquettes, like a mesquite that I use in my normal traditional Little Chief, the little silver smoker.
Sure.
And I'll get them wet, and then I'll put them right inside the barbecuer on just a medium low, so they kind of just start burning in there. And it gets up to about 200 degrees on just one of the burners, and I just rotate the ribs every couple of minutes, every 30 minutes or so. And you really get some good flavors out of those. It's quick and easy. It's a good way to use up a cut that's typically just left on the animal,
Wow. I love it. That sounds great, and something else. Let's turn our attention from bears to wolves. Now, Idaho has had a wolf season for a couple of years now, but I've never heard of anybody actually eating a wolf, though I do know just a couple hundred years ago, if you were along the Lewis and Clark expedition, you'd be eating dog all the time, and actually the people on that expedition favored dog over salmon. So wolves, can you actually eat them?
You can, but what happens with some of those predators, and especially their GI tracts, is they can get some weird and nasty bugs in them. And so that's some of the problem when you have those wolf human-dog interactions with the parvo and things like that. So if you're going to eat a wolf, what you need to do is you need to be really careful. Wear gutting gloves. I mean, you should really wear those anytime you're gutting a big game animal anyway, but make sure you wear those gloves. Make sure you follow the utmost sanitation procedures, and then be prepared to be laughed at by your friends. Other than that,
we're going to stop right there on wolves. That was definitely not a ringing endorsement for wolf eating. So wolf is not for dinner with the chef in the wild. Folks, you're listening to...
Well, hold on. Well, I do want to say one last thing, though.
Okay, go on.
That movie that came out, that Liam Neeson, what was it, about the gray wolves?
The gray, right.
There we go. I read some article somewhere about it that apparently the old Jedi Master decided that he was going to eat a little bit of wolf before they filmed that show. So they had some wolf jerky before they filmed the gray, just to kind of get into character.
Yeah, how did that work out for him? I haven't seen the movie yet.
Well, it doesn't work out well for anybody in the movie.
Okay, folks, you're listening to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. We're talking to Chef Randy King, also known as the Chef in the Wild. We've talked about bears, we've talked about wolves, and now Napoleon Dynamite. He's the one that made it famous in that movie when he brought over a delicious bass in his little town in Idaho. You don't really hear too many recipes for largemouth bass. How do they taste, and what's the best way to cook them?
Bass, compared to any other really game meat, it's just kind of like a wild snapper that you're getting out of the ocean. It's got that firm, flaky texture. And a lot of times, eating bass kind of gets poo-pooed just because bass are caught for fun.
Right.
Now, fishing in general, right, was initially started off as a resource gathering method. I mean, it didn't start off as, caveman with hooks and lures and stuff like that trying to just have a good time. So the things that have been developed are actually developed for, bringing in meat. And I kind of try to honor that at least a little bit, especially on the fish that I'm pretty sure I've made into damaged goods.
Sure.
So if they swallow the hook too far, they're bleeding out the gills, they're not revived well by the time I get them in. Those are the ones that I'll typically take out of the gene pool and, say thank you very much to and enjoy on my dinner table.
And I guess when it comes to bass, if you can cook them just like snapper or any other fish that you filleted then, right?
Yeah, just flay them out. They got scales on them, which is actually a nice part, because if you keep those scales on them, it'll really retain a lot of the moisture. So you don't even got to scale them. If you want to, you can. But cooking them up, what I'll do is I call it the poor man's half shell. Just leave them right in the scales, throw them into a pan, a warmed-up pan underneath the broiler with a little bit of butter and some lemon juice or something on there, and they'll just kind of sit there and simmer in their own skin, basically, on those scales, and it actually creates a really, really tender and juicy fish.
Nice. Thanks for the tip on that. Okay, one more thing that's an oddball thing I'm going to throw at you here. You seem to be king of the outdoors cooking oddball category. Rattlesnakes. I saw mention of this on your website, and I couldn't resist. Do they really taste like chicken?
The little bit of meat you get off of them tastes like chicken. I mean, it sounds kind of weird, but most things that fall into the frog, lizard, snake category end up kind of tasting like chicken. They're a white meat typically, so you got to cook them to a well-done state. Rattlesnake, I've gone out and hunted them a couple times, but most of the time when I end up eating, it's just because I run across one.
When you say you run across one, are you running one over in the car? Is that what you're doing?
that has happened, yes.
Move on. I'm sorry about that.
No, I get grief on that all the time. I wrote an article about running over a rattlesnake and then eating it. So, moving on.
Okay. We've covered all sorts of interesting topics here in terms of what you can cook. And, folks, you can find out more by going to Randy's website. It's chefrandyking.com. He's the chef in the wild. As you can tell from the talk that we've just had, he's got all sorts of interesting recipes and interesting stories to boot. And you've also got a project, the Chef in the Wild project. We got about 30 seconds. Tell us about that.
So the Chef in the Wild project is a video series that I'm working on now, where it kind of follows me along through the adventures, because, it might be great to write about it, but it's also great to see it. So I've had a couple of times to get some videographers out there with me where we go deer hunting or we go rabbit hunting or something like that, and then we take what we get or don't get back and we make it. So the first time that we did it, I ended up making a mountain house beehive food because we didn't get a deer. The second time we went out, we got a couple bunnies and we made a barbed wire spit and roasted them out there right on the road. So it was a good time, and it's a fun series, and I'm just trying to develop that over time.
All right. Again, folks, you can find out more at his website, chefrandyking.com. Randy, real pleasure having you on the show. We're definitely going to have you back. Thanks so much for taking the time to share some of your recipes with our listeners on Northwestern Outdoors.
No problem. Thank you very much. And remember, if you killed it, you eat it.
There you go.
It's summer and the salmon fishing is hot at Westport, Washington. You can reel in big, tasty king and silver salmon all summer long for a very reasonable price with the talented charter boat captains who sail out of the boat basin. Deckhands on board your boat will be happy to clean your catch and help you get it ready for the grill. Also, don't forget to enter the fishing derby for your chance to win big money for your big fish. It's a summer full of salmon at Westport. Find out more at experiencewestport.org.
The two-burner camp stove has evolved, and today's line of portable camp stoves from Camp Chef have come a long way from your father's propane stove, featuring matchless ignition, more cooking power, and in some cases a built-in grill or extra burner. And you've got what you need to whip up some great grub in the field. Look for the complete line of Mountain Series stoves at your local sporting goods store or online at campchef.com. Camp Chef, the way to cook outdoors.
Hot summer nights mean hot morning fishing for sockeye here in the Northwest, and Max Lure Company has got what you need to catch a limit with the Double D Dodger and two great sockeye rigs. The Double D Dodger has a unique fast, slow action and can be fished away from the boat without a side planer. The Cha-Cha Sockeye Rig and Double Whammy Sockeye Pro both feature a patented smile blade and two stout red hooks that won't let go of that salmon when it bites. Max Lure Company, getting you into the sockeye this summer.